In the black silence between stars, the Icarus VI drifted like a spear forged in defiance. Angular, plated, and unapologetically metallic, the ship hummed with the pride of human engineering. Her hull bore scars from meteoroid strikes and microlaser pings like a veteran's medals. Inside, Captain Amina Reyes stood before the viewport, arms folded across her chest, watching the flickering star that marked their destination. ETA to Helix Gate. 6 hours, said Lieutenant Bryn Talbot, his voice calm but cautious. No activity on the alien comm channels. Still nothing on long-range scans. Reyes didn't blink. They're watching. Just not saying anything. They always do, muttered Talbot. Creeps me out. All that biotech. Like flying inside a whale. The United Terran Fleet had been pushing into the Helix sector for barely 3 years. Yet in that time, humanity had encountered 22 sentient species, all of them having moved past metal, past plastics, even past conventional computation. The galaxy, it turned out, was alive. Ships grown in vats, crewed by gene-tailored symbiotes. Armor that healed, weapons that excreted enzymes instead of firing rounds. And here came Earth, punching out fusion drives in underground bunkers and bolting steel plates together like a planetary blacksmith. The aliens called them ferals, short for ferrous primitives. An insult, until Earth punched a hole through a biofleet near Epsilon Miritis. Open logs, said Reyes. Voice note. Talbot nodded. She cleared her throat. Captain's log, Icarus VI. Human date, August 12, 2416. We're approaching Helix Gate on orders from Central Command. Intel reports suggest a blockade. Bioconsortium presence likely. We've been ordered not to fire unless fired upon, but I expect we'll be tested. They think our ships are relics. They haven't met Icarus. The bridge lights flickered briefly. Talbot grimaced. Power flux again. The memory metals under stress. Good, Reyes replied. That means it remembers what it's supposed to do. The core of the Icarus VI was a classified marvel, an experimental titanium-vanadium lattice embedded with neural filaments, a hybrid structure that responded to damage by reconfiguring its molecular structure. It had no pulse, no heartbeat. But when it bent back. And when it broke, it learned. Across the galaxy, organic ships bled and scarred. Icarus remembered. A soft chime interrupted the silence. Ensign Rowe turned from his sensor station. Captain, incoming. 4 contacts. Definitely biosignature vessels. Closing fast. Reyes didn't flinch. Do they hail? Not yet. But they're circling. Pattern suggests encirclement. Put them on screen. The viewport shimmered. 4 massive constructs appeared, each shaped like grotesque cephalopods, their hulls glistening with iridescent mucus and rippling like muscle. One emitted a bioluminescent pulse. Another opened what could only be described as a maw, filled with twitching sensor tendrils. Transmission coming in, Rowe said. The voice came as a low, hissing symphony, like wind through a graveyard of reeds. A translation flickered over it. Surrender your vessel. Your species contaminates this space with iron and flame. This is your only warning. Reyes smiled. Broadcast return message. Visual. She stepped into frame. This is Captain Amina Reyes of the Icarus VI. Earth does not surrender. You threatened us once at Epsilon Miritis. You remember what happened. She gave them a second to think. Let the hesitation sink in. No, that's fine. Icarus remembers. Commander Tellin of the Oshari fleet shifted within the warm membranes of her bioship's command chamber. Around her, the living walls pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, translating her neural intentions into thrust, communication, and posture. She extended a single digit into the geneport node. Instantly, the ship responded, deploying neuroplasmic filaments into her spinal stem. A holographic likeness of the human ship shimmered into view. All angles and scars, hard radiation, and primitive welding. It made her shudder. Why do they persist with metal? Asked her first adjutant, Vesk. His tentacular lips curled in what the humans called distaste. Metal is cold. Dead. Their species clings to entropy like it is sacred. Tellin narrowed her gaze. They claim victory at Epsilon Miritis. They disabled 12 bioships with kinetic rounds. Vesk scoffed. Barbarism. They shattered our ships like bones beneath stone hammers. But only because we underestimated their brutality. It's not just brutality, Tellin said, frowning. It's patternless. Their designs. They don't adapt by code or genome. They react. They change only when hurt. Like wounded beasts. She extended another filament. Begin resonance link with the other three. Target the feral craft. Disable, not destroy. Across the void, the bioships adjusted orientation, their hulls shifting color and shape like skin in thought. Fungal torpedoes detached from underbellies. Symbiotic targeting creatures chirped and pulsed. The order was given. On the Icarus VI, claxons flared. Incoming, Talbot shouted. Torpedoes, 408. Multiple signatures. Launch interceptors, Reyes said, calm as granite. Too close. They'll impact in 20 seconds. Then close the shutters. All hands brace. The viewport darkened as armored panels slid shut. From the hull, automated gun pods rotated to face the threat, firing bursts of hypervelocity flak. 3 of the torpedoes exploded mid-flight, bursting into clouds of spores. But 5 impacted directly, burrowing into the ship's surface like acid-tipped worms. For a moment, it was chaos. Systems blinked. Gravity shivered. Then, the ship began to hum. On the exterior hull, the worm torpedoes twisted deeper, only to find themselves trapped. The memory metal, liquefied momentarily by heat and force, resolidified around them, suffocating them like a vice. A shimmer passed over the surface, and the impact points sealed shut with smooth, gleaming folds of reconfigured alloy. Talbot blinked. They're gone. Sealed in. Reyes grinned. Told you. It remembers. On the bridge, the lights stabilized. The Icarus VI's AI. Kovacs spoke in its dry monotone. Adaptive layers engaged. Recompiling armor memory. Threat vectors logged. Good, said Reyes. Now return fire. The ship responded with 2 sudden lurches as Gauss cannons opened from recessed ports. A pair of tungsten rods, each 10 feet long, launched silently into space at Mach 12. There was no flash. No beam. Just kinetic death. The rods tore through the leading bioship's flank, shattering cell walls and digestive reactors. The creature convulsed, venting clouds of phenomenal panic. A third shot followed, this time aimed at the command node of Tellen's vessel. The bioship screamed, not in audio, but in pheromones, pulses, and neuroelectric distress bursts. Tellen's chamber filled with the scent of agony. The walls twisted in anguish. Her own nerves recoiled in shock. Starcore breach, hissed Vesk. They pierced its heart. Biolattice collapsing, another aide cried. We can't regenerate. Not in time. Tellen disconnected from the neural filaments, her limbs trembling. What species chooses this? She gasped. What race builds death into every structure? Vesk answered with grim clarity, a race that knows it is mortal, and has chosen to outfight extinction. Tellen looked again at the human ship, now turning toward the remaining bioships like a machine of wrath. It had no elegance, no evolution, but it had memory, not of birth but of war. Send full withdrawal, she said softly. This is not a battle. It's a lesson. Back aboard the Icarus VI, Reyes stood quietly as the remaining bioships retreated in silence. They won't forget this, said Talbot. Good, Reyes replied. Neither will we. A quiet chime. Rowe turned from his station. Command wants a report. Apparently, we've been promoted from ferrous nuisance to metal anomaly. Reyes gave a dry chuckle. Let them keep naming us. We'll keep hammering them. She reached out and ran a hand along the railing. Cold metal. Solid. Old. Reliable. Tell Command we're proceeding through Helix Gate, she said. Let's show the galaxy what memory feels like. The Galactic Coalition met in a ring of living stone orbiting the gas giant Nephra 9. The structure was grown, not built, its chambers lined with translucent coral, its walls constantly shifting like lungs in breath. Delegates arrived in vessels that pulsed with arterial rhythm and smelled of sap and breath. Except for one. The Icarus VI docked with a grinding lock click that echoed through the conference chamber like a guillotine closing. When Captain Amina Reyes entered the grand chamber, she was met with silence. Delegates from over 60 species filled the tiered gallery. Translucent Arthivine mistweavers, towering Yuldrak juggernauts, crystalline Ellerites humming in chord resonance. They eyed her with suspicion, revulsion, and most dangerously, curiosity. Human representative, droned the speaker, a brain mass entity suspended in fluid. You were not invited. Reyes kept walking, boots clanking on the grown vine floor. We're here anyway. You violated Helix Protocol, spat in Yuntok ambassador, its mouth filled with grinding plates. You defiled sanctified space with iron. Reyes smirked. You mean we survived? You attacked. We answered. A ripple of disgust passed through the delegates. Several adjusted their neural scent outputs in protest. To many in the chamber, humanity's use of metal was a sacrilege. Life was meant to be grown, not shaped. War was a matter of genomic tuning, not physics. The Ellerite representative pulsed softly. Your technology is dissonant. Its geometry is crude, yet it resists our weapons. This is troubling. You call it crude, Reyes said. We call it tested. Every beam we weld, every wire we lay, costs sweat. Every hull dent tells a story. Metal doesn't regrow. It doesn't forgive mistakes. Neither do we. An elder of the Amothi, a species that had long since abandoned physical form, vibrated through the upper chamber. You use materials from planetary crusts. You refine with heat. You create machines without self-replication. Why? Reyes looked around, meeting as many eyes as she could. Because we remember what it took to get here. Our tech reflects our nature. Simple, brutal, precise. We're not evolved past pain. We just got good at using it. A beat. Then another voice, low, almost whispering. The rods you used. The memory hull. It adapts? It was the Virosh delegate, whose people grew sapient starships that passed knowledge through gut flora. Reyes nodded. Memory metal. It flexes under heat and stress. Then it reforms stronger. That's how we build. Not to avoid pain, but to absorb it. The Virosh leaned forward. May we study it? No. A rustle of offense swept the room. Reyes continued. We didn't come to trade secrets. We came to deliver a message. She stepped forward and projected a single image from a wrist pad. A Gauss rod frozen mid-flight, halfway through a bioship's neural sac, just as it tore the creature's synaptic lobe in half. Silence. This is a warning, she said. If you threaten Earth or its colonies again, we won't hesitate. We may be the last species to use metal, but we'll be the last one standing. Then she turned and walked away. Back aboard the Icarus VI, Reyes stood in the decontamination lock, watching biospores dissolve off her boots. Talbot approached. You scared them. I meant to. He hesitated. You know they'll respond. The Coalition's got hundreds of worlds, thousands of fleets. And we've got something they don't, she said, peeling off her gloves. What's that? She tapped the bulkhead beside her. Consequence. Across the galaxy, in a moonlit cove deep within the Ellerite Nebula, 6 species gathered in secret. None were fully trusted by the Coalition, but none could ignore the growing concern. The humans can't be allowed to spread, hissed the Weishkar voice node. Their tech is viral. Not in biology, but in idea. Other young species may follow. They are elegant in their cruelty, admitted the Tsen symbiont. They build no beauty, only resistance. That's dangerous. The metal itself, added in old Amothi, is inert to our enzymes, immune to our soft weapons. Then we will adjust. From the shadows, a new entity entered, a living battleship intelligence from the core fleets, speaking directly through pheromonic emissions. We shall adapt. Breed a new weapon, one that feeds on memory, one that hunts metal, a predator of primitives. The plan was born. In the asteroid belt of the Laconian Reach, a darkness hatched. Where once a moon orbited peacefully, now a cocoon of bioplasma split open, revealing something new, something the galaxy had never bred before. A star-killer grown not to dominate, but to unmake memory. It had no name. It needed none. It was forged by consensus across terrified species, sculpted by fear, perfected by hate. They designed it to hunt humanity. This creature ship, nicknamed the Maw, did not fly, it slithered. Its hull was a fractal skin of acidic scales capable of bonding with molecular metal and dissolving its structure like frost melting to salt. At its heart pulsed a living core, genetically attuned to detect kinetic mass, electromagnetic emissions, and iron signatures. It was drawn to heat and impact, to the unique fingerprint of human engineering. And it was hungry. On the Icarus VI, a new mission had begun. Following the confrontation at the Flesh Congress, Earth Command had greenlit Operation Driftline, a mapping project of the unclaimed Black Spires region. Territory deemed too hostile for bioships, riddled with radiation and magnetic anomalies. Reyes was suspicious. This smells like bait, she muttered. You think the Coalition planted something out here? Talbot asked, sipping cold synth coffee. There's nothing alive in this quadrant. Hell, nothing's ever lived here. That's exactly what makes it perfect. No witnesses. No diplomatic channels. Just space. A long-range ping interrupted the bridge chatter. Contact, Rose said. Single signal. Intermittent. Faint. Reyes squinted. Hostile. Rowe frowned. Unclear. Not biosignature. Not machine either. It's confusing our systems. The ship vibrated suddenly, like a tuning fork plucked by unseen hands. Talbot dropped his cup. What the hell was that? Reyes didn't answer. Instead, she opened the viewport. And there it was. A sinuous thing, longer than a dreadnought, coiled silently around a chunk of debris. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent sheen that seemed to digest starlight. No visible weapons. No propulsion system. But it moved slowly, confidently, directly toward them. Kovacs, Reyes called. What is that? The AI paused for 3 full seconds. A dangerous delay. Unknown entity. Material analysis in progress. Magnetic disruption consistent with targeted metal-over design. Advisory, extreme threat. Reyes' heart sank. They built it for us. The thing opened its mouth. Not a true mouth, but a field of inverted energy that peeled space itself. A cone of microgravity stretched toward the Icarus VI, pulling with sickening force. Engines full. Reyes barked. The ship jolted. Thrusters burned blue. Metal groaned as the gravity lens warped their trajectory. We're not breaking free. Talbot yelled. It's consuming our inertia. Reyes stared at the approaching beast. Launch the rods, she ordered. Talbot looked stunned. This close. They'll bend off target. Just fire. A pair of kinetic rods fired, trembling in their path. They twisted slightly in the gravitational lens, but they struck, hard. The creature flinched. Its shimmering hide absorbed most of the damage, but a wound opened brief, pink and fleshy, before healing rapidly. It can be hurt, Rose said, but not easily. Reyes wasn't looking at the wound. She was watching the way the creature's body moved afterward, how it shifted, realigned, recalibrated. It's learning, she said, just like the memory metal. Kovacs confirmed the grim suspicion. Entity adapting to kinetic assault. Internal enzyme restructuring in progress. Future rod impacts will be mitigated. Reyes tapped her console. Kovacs. Authorize full stress reconfiguration. Memory armor to emergency variant Theta 6. Warning. Structural strain will exceed safe limits. Self-healing may become unstable. Do it. Beneath their feet, the Icarus VI groaned louder than before. The hull rippled. Plates reshaped. The armor shifted like the muscles of a jaw tightening before a punch. What the hell is Theta 6? Talbot asked, grabbing onto a rail. Every memory metal model's got an imprint it tries not to use. It remembers every impact it's taken. Theta 6 is the one that keeps them all. Unfiltered. You're turning the ship into a bruise. No, Reyes said coldly. I'm turning it into a scar. The maw advanced again. Its tendrils reached out, this time not to eat, but to bind. It had learned the human ship bled energy when gripped. The moment the tendrils touched, the Icarus VI's memory metal pulsed red. Every atom remembering every strike from every battle before. The hull fought back, twisting its geometry into blade-like edges. Tendrils were sliced, then burned by electrical surges launched from embedded mesh circuits. The creature howled, a high-frequency blast that fried their sensors. But Reyes had planned for this. She'd turned pain into armor. Now she turned memory into a weapon. Fire internal toroid coil, she commanded. The engineering crew obeyed, triggering the ship's core to pulse not outwards, but inward, flooding the memory alloy with a resonance loop of all previous trauma patterns. The hull glowed crimson. The maw hesitated. The human ship was becoming unpredictable. The Icarus VI groaned like a beast cornered, and then it lunged. Not with engines, not with guns, but with memory. Every impact, every burn, every trauma encoded into its hull now surged outward in a violent electromagnetic wave. The memory metal, pushed past every failsafe, pulsed like a neural network in distress, except it wasn't dying. It was evolving. The hull folded inward in unnatural, angular patterns, forming prongs and ridges the design team had never engineered. They hadn't needed to. The ship had learned, and now it was improvising. Reyes, Talbot shouted, shielding his face from a shower of sparks. The hull's going rogue. No, Reyes whispered. It's responding. It knows. Outside, the maw recoiled. It had anticipated a target, not an opponent. The altered Icarus VI now bristled with jagged armor that defied symmetry. Its magnetic field twisted the local space fabric just enough to cause microdeflections in the maw's tendrils. The hunter had stalked prey. Now it faced another predator. Gauss cannons offline, Rowe reported. But the resonance spikes, those new ones, the hulls formed them around the heat vents. New weapons? Talbot asked. Old pain, Reyes said. Focused forward. Reyes stood, bracing herself as the ship aligned. Kovacs, she said, calm and cold, launch all resonance spikes at the heart of that thing. Memory-guided trajectory. Acknowledged. Warning, 98% spike degradation post-launch. One use only. Noted. Do it. The Icarus VI fired. Not rods, not beams, but slivers of metal filled with trauma. Each spike was forged from reconfigured armor around wounds, bits of the hull that remembered being struck, melted, and pierced. They howled as they flew, vibrating with harmonics gathered from decades of battle. The first three struck the maw's flank, piercing the scales and injecting waveforms that caused the biological structure to misfire. Enzymes curdled. Regeneration reversed. Neural lattice shrieked in confusion. The fourth spike, the largest, forged from the ship's first ever battle scar at Alpha Orionis, drove straight into the core. And the maw spasmed, its hide unknit. Internal tissues dissolved into mist. No immune response came. The memory-infused projectiles had confused the creature at a molecular level. It didn't understand pain as history. Now it was drowning in someone else's. A blast wave surged outward, biological mass rupturing in reverse birth. The maw collapsed inward, its form folding into itself in silence. And then, nothing. Just debris drifting. No heat. No light. No sound. On the bridge, smoke thinned slowly. Kovacs returned online. Hostile terminated. Hull integrity at 38%. Self-repair systems disabled. Recommend drydock within 14 days. Talbot let out a long breath. We won. Reyes shook her head. No. We survived. That was their test. Rowe chimed in. Incoming transmission. Open channel. No ID. Wideband relay. Reyes nodded. Put it through. A hologram shimmered above the command deck. Not one face, but several. Members of the rogue coalition that had built the maw. They looked shaken. Pale. Angry. We saw what you did. That wasn't metallurgy. That was madness. Reyes folded her arms. No. That was memory. We didn't design that weapon. Our ship became it. Because we allowed it to learn. Because we treat our machines the way you treat your genomes. With care. And with consequence. One delegate hissed. You dare unleash tech that thinks. That responds without order? Reyes leaned forward. You bred something to consume our metal. We let our metal remember. And it remembered how to kill you. The line went dead. 6 months later, across the galaxy, whispers passed through the trading hubs of the Outer Ring. The Ferals defeated the maw. Their ships bleed memory. They build with death in mind and call it craft. Humanity's reputation shifted. Not just as a violent newcomer, but as something more terrifying. As a species that had made pain into infrastructure. On Earth, at the Armstrong Naval Yard, the Icarus VI hovered in drydock, its scars sealed in lacquer, its strange new appendages studied by engineers and philosophers alike. Some argued to disassemble the ship. Others called it sacred. Captain Reyes declined further missions. She gave one final speech at the United Terran Assembly, broadcast to every colony. Her words were simple. They grew their ships to heal. We built ours to remember. They thought memory was a weakness. It wasn't. It was our weapon. And across every ship forged after the Icarus, a phrase was welded into the titanium bones of their hull. Scars are the shape of survival.